Good morning, good morning, good morning, and you are welcome to this sunny, beautiful, and lion-filled morning here in the Sabi Sands in South Africa on Djuma. We have 3 members of the Nkuhumas still busy with their zebra kill, and there's 8 hyenas that we've counted that are milling around in the background. I am Noelle, and on camera I have Vildi. Good morning, Vildi, and this is quite a way to start our day. So it's really interesting. The lions are just here, and they're resting full belly, just the 2 adults and the 1 tiny little cub, and still 8 hyenas feel that they cannot come and interfere too much. Now, they've been running around in the back, and unfortunately they've gone just behind this large bush here, but I'm hoping that they decide to come out, and they've kept about a 50-meter periphery around the lions the whole morning that so far whilst we've been here. Now, the kill is just to our left-hand side, or what's left of the kill. There's not a huge amount left. There we go. Lots of flies. Very, very little left to eat. And Vildi and I were just chatting about the fact that even with this many hyenas and so few lionesses, and with the tiny cub, that they still don't want to give it a go. Now, if this was 1 lioness and her cub, I think that they would try and come in, those hyenas, but I think that 2 lionesses is just a bit too much for them. Now, as the sun's peeking out over the cloud cover, we have vultures who are also here, beautifully in the dead leadwood tree, sitting there in the nice sunlight. And while we're busy waiting for this light to peek itself through just a bit more, James, I believe, is over with Madame Tundi and her gorgeous little cub, so let's head on over to him and say good morning. So some of the hyenas have decided to come a little bit closer, but not more than about the 50 or 60 meters, 50 or 60 yards that we were chatting about before. Now, Vildi and I have been sitting here and talking about the different clans of hyenas that we've seen interact with different lions and in different places. I have a very dear friend who works in the Selous in Tanzania. It's one of the largest wilderness areas on the continent, while in sub-Saharan Africa. And he routinely sees a large clan, chasing away lions, male lions and female lions, away from kills. And then we're talking about here, as we were saying before, just the 2 lionesses with the cub, and these hyenas aren't chasing them away. And then Vildi was bringing up some lionesses over Elephant Plains that used to chase off a big clan of hyenas that side. Elephant Plains is just to our west. And I was just chatting about, I think it has a lot to do with personality, but I also think it has a lot to do with learned behavior. And then we were also chatting about sort of bravado and how much you actually believe in yourself as, say, the lion and or the hyena, to be able to chase away something that is much larger than you are in a scenario where you shouldn't necessarily win. And it's interesting how in a small space like where we are in the Sabi Sands, to a large space like in the Selous, and then also up in the Mara, you get a lot of hyena-lion interaction, and how it all changes completely. So it is the same species of lion, and it is the same species of hyena, but very, very variable. Very similar to humans. We are the same species of human across the world, but we all react in different ways and behave in different ways in different scenarios. Now, this cub has been wandering around a little bit, getting up and lying down and getting up and lying down. I just think that it is the most uncomfortable little lion cub that you've ever seen. Its belly is so fat, and it's just trying to find a place to be that is comfortable. But just like you, if you eat too much, and it's also, oh shame, it's moving away to go to the toilet. Good lion. The females were just urinating right next to each other. That cub has managed to go off and find its own little special place. Now, this female here has got a big nick in the ear. I was chatting to Vildi. I was saying, oh, maybe while they were feeding, and Vildi was saying when they were watching yesterday that she wasn't really allowing the other lions to eat for a long time before she had finished. So it could be from that. It could have been from the hunt itself, or there could have been some interaction that we just didn't see while we were all sleeping in the DRC last night. Now, I think because there's not much left on this kill, they'll probably be here for most of today. Today is going to be a very hot day, and then definitely tonight they're going to start moving on. They might even do it this afternoon, go and grab something to drink at the dam in front of Djuma Lodge there. Cleaning off all of the sand and bile. This one's keeping an eye on her cub, just to make sure that, listen. She's calling to it like, don't go too far. And it was very, very low, but behind us you can hear the cub just sort of did a little grunt like, oh, Mom, I see you, but I'm too full. I don't want to move. This lioness can fit about 9 kilograms of meat in her stomach at one time, so about 20 pounds of meat. And that's one of the reasons why they look so full and have it's difficult for them to move after they eat. Now, since our lions are lying down and not doing too much, let's head back over to James, whose little Tundi cub is busy being extremely playful. The hooded vultures have all flown in and are busy eating it's all gone now, but eating the scat. Hooded vultures are known for eating predator scat, not just off of kills. And you'll sometimes see them perched above lions or wild dogs even, waiting for them pretty much just to go to the bathroom before they come down. So the ones with the pink around the face, those are the adults. The other ones are the juveniles, the teenagers. And as they were flying in, the lionesses were getting quite perturbed by this. So they got up, they did a little bit of scent marking, and then the lioness that's in the back there with the kill has moved the kill a bit. I think she was just a bit too annoyed with all of the activity. And now we're going to watch her feeding on what is left. So she's just basically pulling the tendons and sinew off. There's tiny bits of meat left, but nothing huge. And so she'll be licking with her tongue. There she yes, and then pulling with her front teeth and then chewing with her side teeth with her molars using that carnassial shear. Adrian, you're curious to know if the vultures would consider the cub fair game. Because the cub is still... Oh, sorry. Listen. No. Oh, sorry, the hyenas. Excuse me. The hyenas fair game. Yes, definitely. Yes, they would definitely consider that fair game if they were able to get close enough to the cub. They would definitely kill it, and then the hyenas would also eat it. Although I don't think those lionesses would let this happen, that's for sure. But even if they managed to... Let's say these hyenas were more adept at coming in here and had more bravado and chased them away. If they managed to injure one of the lionesses and injure it to a point where she really couldn't do much, they would definitely also eat... she's calling the little cub. They would eat that lioness as well. She's calling the cub, going, come, come, come. He's not listening at all. Or she's not listening, excuse me. So Vildy and I were chatting about how much can lions eat. And Vildy was just talking about how he had heard that sometimes lionesses can eat a bit more and how much it's dependent on body weight. And he's very correct about that. And we were chatting about sort of averages of numbers. And it really does depend on the size of the lioness, size of the lion. He was talking about one of the Matimba males that used to be in this area who could finish off half a buffalo kill by himself. So that finishing off of half the buffalo kill by himself would have taken quite a while. And a lot of the numbers that were given, it depends on the books that you read and the researchers that you're doing, and it usually has to do with per sitting. But he's correct in saying that across the board, in multiple days whilst they're feeding, the amount is quite large. So I believe, Vildy, if I'm correct, it's 20% of the body weight of the lion over the 3 days, not just in one sitting. 20% of the body weight of the lion or lioness in one sitting, and then let's times that by multiple days. So let's say 3 or 4 days. So that's quite a bit of meat that they're fitting in. So if you've got a smaller lioness, about 170, 180 kilograms, it's obviously smaller, and then... Sorry about that little technical glitch. I hope that's all sorted out. This little lion cub is in fact a bit bigger than that little leopard cub, and also much, much heavier, of course. And it keeps wandering away from Mum and investigating the vultures, and when it does, Mum tries to call it back, and then it comes back, and then lies down, and then gets bored, and gets up, and goes back. And now, as you can see, it is flat, flat, flat next to its auntie. Now, Mum is still busy trying to get as much of that kill as she can. She obviously needs the nutrients. She's still nursing this little one, although this little one still is going to eat meat. Mother's milk is still extremely important at this point, very similar to what's happening with Tundi and her cub, although her cub will be having much more milk than meat at this time. can we hear her breathing and her trying to chew on this carcass? Lady Starfire, good question. You're curious to know how long will the lions stay with the kill after they've eaten. Basically, Lady Starfire, as you're seeing now, they're going to try and get as much of it off of it as they possibly can. I've seen lions even stay with a kill that they really aren't eating off of for about half a day after it's completely gone before they move off. Just depends on how much other activity is around. So I think one of the reasons why these lionesses, other than the fact that this one is still nursing and needs the nutrients, one of the facts that these lionesses are still sticking around as close as they are to the kills because all these hyenas are here, and lions are very greedy. They don't necessarily want to let anything else come in. If the hyenas weren't around and their presence wasn't known, they might have decided to move off already this morning. Although that being said, I'm not quite sure when the last time they ate before this. So if they hadn't eaten at all for, say, a week or so before this, which can happen, then they're going to stay with it a little bit longer and really try and milk the whole scenario. Mike, you'd like to know if lions ever get sick from eating old meat. Mike, I've never seen lions get sick from eating old meat, nor a leopard, nor a hyena. Their stomachs are much better than ours. I've been with lions and with leopard with large carcasses from elephant and rhino that have died from other reasons, and they've found it weeks after it's been dead and punctured it and still gone and eaten that really, really rotting flesh. So the stomach juices in there they have, what do we call it, cast iron stomachs. Not as cast iron as a hyena, but they've got cast iron stomachs. What I have seen them get, I wouldn't say sick, but it upsets them a bit, is if they eat too much cartilage and then their bodies can't process it and then they have to vomit it up. Now, this is interesting. This is beautiful action of the carnassial shears, those molars in process. See how she works her tongue in there as well. Sort of niggling it off. She's got a little bit of zebra mane in there. This is all the fat that sits there around the base of the mane. We talk about how do you tell if a zebra is healthy, and if the mane's sticking straight up, it's healthy. If it falls over, it means that the fat molecule at the base of the hair has dissolved and it can't keep it upright. So all of this fat here is part of the process of why that mane stays up. And this was obviously quite a healthy zebra. Most of our zebra in the area are healthy. Just was an unlucky zebra. Okay, so while we're busy here with these lions eating what little is left of the fatty bits of the zebra, let's head on up. I still have the Nkuhumas, but we actually have some really interesting vulture behavior. Most of the time you see vultures in trees and or flying around, but these hooded vultures have decided that their little spot on the ground lying down is exactly where they want to be. And then just behind them and to the right, there are some starlings that are busy collecting the feathers from the vultures that have been, after they've been preening themselves. There we go. And they've been fighting over these feathers, and they've been picking the exact right feather. They're doing it for nesting behavior, for nesting material. But the behavior behind it has been very, very, very interesting. I watched one pick up a feather now and then place it down on the ground, and then the mate came to grab it and then flew off. It's getting all the bits of soil off. It's making sure that it's exactly the way that it wants this feather to be. And it's interesting that you can see it just hooked it on the tree there, and before they were just placing them on the side of the termite mound. Very cool. And now he's dropped it. And the mate's picked it up. There we go. So lots of things happening around these lions and hyenas other than the lions and hyenas themselves. Now, the hyenas managed to get a little bit of gumption going and crept 40 meters close as opposed to 50 or 60 meters, and then decided, nope, that's too close, and to move off. They've been chasing each other around a little bit in the back here, biting at each other, stiff tails. But it's getting quite warm, and so a lot of the activity is dying down. Our little cub still can't figure out where she wants to be and what's going to make her comfortable. She's going between licking the carcass to going to say hi to Mum, to trying to say hi to Auntie, who keeps sort of growling at her and telling her to go away, to investigating the vultures. Now she's staring at the hyenas. She's hot and uncomfortable. Kaylee, the actual percentage rate for this particular area I couldn't give you, and it's going to change over every single pride and population across the sub-Saharan part of Africa. What I will tell you is that lions can have up to about 10 cubs. They usually have between 4 and 6. And between those 4 and 6, depending on the area, anywhere from 20% to 80% can survive. I do know a lioness that routinely used to raise all of her cubs. Every single litter, I think, except for 2 in her 15 years of living. And I think that's just the way she was and the circumstances around it. But I believe that the first reports we were getting of these Nkuhumas with these cubs, I think that they had them over closer to Elephant Plains side, was that there was a couple of cubs. This is the first time I've seen this one. I've seen these lionesses, obviously, but the little ones. I believe there was 2 or 3 to begin with, but I could stand corrected on that because I think it was more than one lioness that dropped around the same time. So I'm not quite sure with this particular litter with this female because she didn't give birth here, but I do think this is the one remaining cub. I believe she had at least 2 from what I've heard. So it's not necessarily very good. I've also worked with a lioness who lost every single litter for 5 years in a row due to pride takeovers and mongoose and leopard, and what else happened? Mongoose, sorry, thanks, Phildy. Mongoose, yeah, a slender mongoose. Killed it. It was hectic, it was crazy. The Mongai, Phildy, the Mongai. And what else happened there? Hyenas as well. One was even taken by a martial eagle. It was sitting out on a rock. So yeah, she had a tough lot of it. I also worked with a lioness where every time her cubs reached about 3-4 months old, she would just leave them and she would never go back. So it's very, very variable and depending upon personality and circumstances and situation and weather and climate and so many different things. Cheetah, unfortunately, that is the behavior of the lion, and it suits them well. Remember, they can go up to 2 weeks sort of maximum without eating. On average, they're going to kill maybe once or twice a week, sometimes a little bit more, like 3 or 4 times a week, but that stuffing themselves is necessary. They need to get all that protein in, and they make themselves fat, and then they digest it, over... Now they're digesting it slowly now, but over a couple of days, it's going to sustain them. Without stuffing themselves the way they do, they wouldn't be able to function and to survive, unfortunately. I know it looks very uncomfortable, and I'm sure they're very uncomfortable, but they're very happy, trust me. This mom she's found a nice little nook. Oh, James is still with Tundi and her adorable little cubs, so let's head on over to him so that you all can partake in the cuteness. This lioness that we have on screen, up close and personal, but she's now just taking a bit of a beat. The little cub is sleeping, and the cub's mom is also resting as well. Everyone, I think, is extremely full, and when the clouds are not covering the sun, it is very, very warm. The hyenas have decided to sleep as well. They're not moving around, and the vultures have all gone back to their little perches on their trees for the most part. So also a bit of a quiet sighting, although we don't get to see lions every day here on Djuma, so it's still a fabulous sighting nonetheless. Zach, good question. You're wondering why the lions haven't eaten the legs of the zebras yet? There's not a lot of meat on there. It's a tiny bit of meat with lots of skin and bone on it. So they've really concentrated on the parts where they can get the most protein as possible. When they leave what's left of this kill later today or this evening, the hyenas will definitely get in there and enjoy that and eat that. And I'm sure the vultures are going to try and get in at the same time and see how much they can pick off of there. But it's not really worth their time and effort. I have seen younger cubs older than the one that we have here, sort of gnawing on a leg. but it's more a delicacy for our hyena friends as opposed to the lions. Now, something like a giraffe, especially the thigh of a giraffe, there's quite some meat on there. But even that being said, I haven't seen lions eating off of a giraffe leg that much either. They like around the ribs. You can see just to the left of that lioness the rib cage there. And they like the eyeballs and the entrails and the fatty bits around the rump. Those are their favorite things to eat. When I used to do research with lions, we used to sit here like this, like we're doing now, but we would do it for days and days and days and days.
We're going to do that, everybody. We're driving Ronald now towards where the lions are resting underneath the bushes there. And we'll just see what happens. We're going to do it very slowly. Scott managed to get very close yesterday, and they just carried on eating. They might have a slight reaction initially. There you can see Ron's picture. There he goes, fearlessly heading across the road. He is a fearless fellow. And I will just say to you, we've had quite a lot of kudu alarm calling between here and Tundi. I don't think they were alarming at Tundi. I think quite possibly there's a male leopard around somewhere. All right, we should almost have a picture of the lions with Ronald, not just yet. Kirsten, you don't have that red cross in the middle of your picture, do you? Okay, that's good. My picture's got a sort of target in it almost. That was me dropping the radio. These cars are designed to make as much noise as possible. Ronald? Hey, my boy? Careful in there, see? Don't take any chances. Colbert, you want to know how Ronald got his name? Well, Colbert, I am the namer-in-chief out here. For example, I get to name all the leopards and all the lions. And so I named Ronald. No, I'm talking rubbish. You know, it came about entirely by chance. We were in the middle of a TV show, and I just said one day, you know, for the purposes of alliteration almost, there is Ronald the Rover, and it stuck. It really is astounding how they have habituated to him in less than a day. Scott did this yesterday. I think it was for the first time they'd seen him. Look at that. Isn't that wonderful? Totally unfazed they are. Now, he's, as you could see, he's probably about 2.5 meters from them. I won't push the envelope too much, because it's one thing them taking a paw from Hosanna, the male leopard, with a gentle slap, but a lion will knock his block off, even with the gentlest of slaps. That is fantastic. They're having a lovely morning, these lions. They've got nice food to eat. It's a sort of cool day so far. They've got good shade. A couple of vultures around and some hyenas, but they're not going to come near a lioness group like this. Now, I'm just going to turn him slightly. Oh, Starlight, you know what? Scott Dyson is obviously the greatest bush fashion icon there's ever been, and that extends to his use of Ronald. It was he who originally disguised Ronald in, well, it wasn't actually, it was Graham Wallington, but yesterday Scott had disguised Ronald very nicely with some leaves, in keeping with his general sort of adherence to bush fashion, and I didn't bother today, which was possibly a little silly of me. Right, so now we're getting towards the kill, and you can see a little bit of, well, unfortunately, striped skin there. Ron is now basically on the kill. That's a bit macabre, isn't it? Well, the cub is in here somewhere. I was rather hoping we'd get a view of the cub from here. There it is, the cub's just behind. You turn him round slightly. There's a lioness. That's not the cub. I think the cub's just the other side there. Thank you, Kirsten. You say a nice framing. I think you're being sarcastic. That's probably a bit better. Isn't that sweet? That is very cool. Oh, there's the cub. There's the little baby. Now, does anybody know what happened to the other cub? I haven't seen these lions for so long that I don't know where the other cub is. In fact, I don't know if I ever met the other cub. I don't think I did. We'll just drive him round there and see if the little cub wants to say hello. Oh, Ronald's got his own disguise there, you see that? Well, the cub's not very pleased with him. But the adults could not give two continentals. All right, let's wait there and see what happens. There's a little one. Come on then. So sweet. This lion's just come out of that beautiful teddy bear phase and just getting a little bit lanky. You can see that. And pretty good neck, pretty good condition. Beautiful picture there of the little thing watching Ronald. And these lions are chilled, aren't they? You know, the first time Graham Wallington, our fearless commander-in-chief, did this experiment, the lions didn't react very well, and we were worried that Ronald would be a bad idea from then. And we didn't actually try it with lions, because he tried it with lions straight off. But we've just got a little bit more bold, and we've just kind of said, okay, well, if there are one or two bad reactions, maybe that's okay if they, you know, we're not threatening them off a kill or chasing them away or increasing the threat levels to their actual survival. And I think that we haven't done that. And I think yesterday, certainly Scott habituated these chaps, and the leopards have paid no attention. Chitwa, you're wondering if they've learnt that this is something not really alive and that will not steal their food. Yes, absolutely. If they had any vague inkling that Ronald would steal their grub, they'd slap him. But he doesn't smell like food, you see. He doesn't smell like a tortoise, for example. And many of you have been very kind in sending me, Ronald is actually very unsophisticated in comparison with some of the robots that people have tried to observe wildlife with. From a looks point of view, not from a technical point of view, but from a looks point of view, they have put, you know, they've made baby wild dogs and stuck them in a den site with cameras on them, and they've done all sorts of things like that. And got with varying degrees of success. I don't know how many of them have been as mobile as Ronald, and I don't know if any of them have managed to, you know, deliver a high definition signal to the world at the same time. Well, there is another vehicle in the sighting, so I just need to be very, very careful here. What I don't want to do is give the lions a fright with Ronald while there's someone else here. All right, Noelle has managed to find herself at the water's edge. Let's see what she can find on the water's edge.